In another case of Amazon's Rings of Power completely losing the plot is the idea that the Numenorians were not only accomplished navigators, but they're apparently badass cavalrymen, and their ships apparently have an unlimited amount of cargo space for men, horses, and supplies. I don't know what to think about all of this. My brain was like struggling with this during the episode, and in the aftermath of the episode, I have continued to just find more and more flaws in this, and it's just making me really struggle with what the writers thought they were doing here. I'm going to dive into this today. I'm Tim Anderson, aka Renfell, sometimes known as the Bearded Dwarven Princess. As you know, I do Rings of Power rant videos. If you're here for the first time and you don't know that, welcome aboard. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. For those of you who have been here for a long time, here's the thing. These are the amazing people supporting the channel. Keeps me going full time. You too can support. It's super simple. You simply drop a super thanks on uploaded videos, or if you're watching this as a premiere like this one right here, you can do a super chat or a sticker down there in the chat window. Pick your amount, go from there. More information at the end of the video on how you can go above and beyond. But in the meantime, let's dive in to the topic of the day, which is first and foremost the fact that supposedly the Numenorians are these great navigators, right? That's an undisputed reality from the books. Like, we know that the Numenorians were renowned for being these navigators that had mastered the seas and had mastered ship sailing. So it's expected to see them have amazing ships, and so far the visuals that we've been shown in the show have kind of set that in stone. We are definitely seeing some really cool navigation, you know, expertise, in the sense that we're given these stunning visuals. And I don't want to hear the whole, oh, Tim, the sails, the way the sails on the boats work, those wouldn't be physically able to do that because, physics and real world mathematics and blah 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 blah. I understand that. And this is where I'm going to get into a little bit of trouble, because I'm going to say something here that's going to make me possibly put my foot in my mouth later on in this episode, which is some suspension of disbelief is necessary for any type of fantasy-based environment, because we're dealing with things that don't apply to the laws of our natural world. Magic, if you want to use it that way. That's the number one rule of thumb when we're doing tabletop, is that magic is the easiest explanation for everything. Any terms of fantasy environment that you have, if there's ever questions about geography, topography, things not working the way they do in our world, you can simply explain it away as magic. I can get behind that. However, there are things that go beyond just the simple fact that they suddenly are not only really good at being shipbuilders and sailors and mariners, but apparently they're also really badass cavalrymen, and they have a cavalry. Now, this gets me to the second part of my video, which isn't just the fact that they're apparently great at sailing the seas and great at riding horses, and apparently they're the precursors to the riders of Rohan and the Rohirrim. But I just want to take for a moment the fact that when we are told in, I think it was episode 5, they had 5 ships and they talk about 500 men. 2 of the ships got blown up. Now they've got 3 ships, and we're assuming 300 men. But we see these scenes, and I've got these images portrayed on here so that you can kind of get a sense of what we're seeing in the show. But there is a panning shot here, which is used as the thumbnail of my image, or of this video. There's a panning shot as they're riding to the rescue of this village, which, how did they know the village was under attack in the first place? I don't know. That's another thing for another time. Where we see hundreds of mounted men en route to whatever, the danger zone. That's not the issue here, though. The issue isn't the amount of people they had riding horses. It was the fact that if we go here, where are they storing all of the men and supplies, and more importantly, the horses for the journey from Numenor to Middle-earth? Because we've seen the ships that they use to sail the seas. We've seen the ships that they're sailing to Middle-earth with. And in no way, shape, or form are those boats, ships, whatever, big enough to support 100 men per ship, plus the supplies necessary to get to Middle Earth, plus the horses and the gear that the cavalry require to be able to have as many mounted people as they have in episode 6. I mean, here we see this shot of one of the boats, and there's maybe 20 crewmen on the ship up top, and the boat's full. Like, there's not room for additional people. So if you can assume that it's 30 men to crew the ship, well, are all 100 of the men, if they're all navigators or they're not all navigators, because we've seen that some of them are simple stable boys and some of them are simple soldiers. But so who's sailing the ship and who's the cavalry and who's the soldiers? Are they all one and the same? And if so, regardless, there's not space on these ships for 100 men. I don't even see space unless it's down below. Sure, down below, back in the back, we see the captain's quarters. So you got your crew members sleeping down below. There's room for 30, 40 crew on this ship. There's not room for 100 men. There's certainly not room for that many horses, on top of which I didn't know this, so I had to look it up. So this is me doing a simple Google search. What's the distance from Numenor to Middle Earth? And it said 1,600 to 1,900 miles over uninterrupted ocean, the same distance roughly between Norway and Greenland, etc. But it said the Norse never did that trip in one go. They would, for example, stop at Shetland, the Faroe Islands, and Iceland. Now, I then went and looked at a quick Google search of how long did it take, and Tor.com had an early thing. It said ships in the early age of sail could sail between 80 miles a day, up to 80 miles a day on average. Using that as a benchmark and assuming ideal conditions, it would take between 3 and 4 weeks to make the journey from Numenor to Middle Earth on a boat that's this size, which can apparently crew about 30 men, and yet is supposedly carrying 100 men apiece, plus all of their horses, plus all of the gear and all of their supplies and everything else. So here's where the suspension of disbelief is going to come bite me in the ass, because some of you are going to be saying, well, Tim, if you can suspend your disbelief about this type of sails that their ships use and that they don't look like they're actually seaworthy, then you should be able to suspend your disbelief with the amount of time that it takes to get them and all of these. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I am, of course, at this point nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. It is a rant video, as always. But what gets me is the fact that we're just not only supposed to believe that they sailed that distance in a matter of minutes, days, I don't know, but that they somehow arrived at the perfect time to rescue the village, and they were riding towards the village. Here's the thing. This is supposed to be an exploratory journey, right? Like, we're here to explore, reunite the tribes, so on and so forth, underneath Halbrand, right? Underneath this new king that we're going to be raising. And when we see episode 6, they're riding to war. This is not an exploratory. They're fully geared and they are charging into battle as if they fully expect to be attacking something. Why? Why are they doing that? They're not at war. They don't know what's going on in the southern kingdoms. They literally went there to get the people underneath Halbrand and to fight back against what Halbrand says is orcs. But they haven't seen an orc threat. They don't know of an orc threat. And yet they're galloping at full charge, riding towards what exactly are they riding towards? Because they don't know that there's actually anything happening at this village. Like, there's so much bullshit in episode 6 that I just, on top of, like I said, episode 5 was the one. The whole Mithril retcon was the episode that finally broke my back. Like, the straw that broke my camel's back was that retcon story. And now, as much as I've nitpicked various elements of the episodes up until this point, now I'm just savaging crap like this, because I find it absolutely ludicrous to think that this Numenorians were not only master navigators and sailors, but that they're also cavalry. And not only that, but they're going into battle. It's like, how are they also badass soldiers when they've lived their whole lives as sailors and mariners, and they haven't been at war for hundreds, if not, well, look at what a timeline, compressed timeline here. They've never gone to war, right? Not since the days of Morgoth. So it's been a long time since then. Generations have passed, and yet somehow they're all master swordsmen who can come into a fight. Not really. I mean, Elendil isn't that great of a swordsman. Whatever. I mean, it gets rescued by Halbrand. The point is, not only are they master sailors, master cavalrymen, but apparently they're also masters of combat, despite the fact that they've never actually fought any battles for a very long time. And how are you finding time to be master sailors and master cavalrymen and master soldiers all in the same go? Suspension of disbelief. It only goes so far, ladies and gentlemen, until you just have to go, I just can't take it anymore. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Again, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get more like this. Support the channel like all of these amazing people on a live stream or a premiere like this. It's really simple. Just drop a super chat or a sticker down there for whatever your amount that you can do is $2, $5, whatever. Do a super thanks on uploaded videos. Join our Patreon page for the World of the Weave and the Void. It's what I'm working on with my wife and my brother. It's our own fantastical world. It's a tabletop game. It's a point and click adventure game. It's a book series. You can also join our Discord. Links are down below to all of the things and all of the places. And hopefully we'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget, Mondays at 11 a.m. Central Time, Mondays in Middle Earth as we continue to read through The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, and beyond. And learn more about all of this stuff in our first reread in 20 years. Love to know your thoughts. Until then.